Drunk on a high-speed train, I encountered a group of young soldiers. I walked over, clinging to their leader's arm, and cried, "When is the country going to assign me a boyfriend?" The leader casually pointed at Chen Huai, his first in command. "You know, they say people who've been a bridesmaid 3 times won't get married." Well, I've been a bridesmaid 9 times. As I get older, the number of single female friends I can choose from as bridesmaid candidates gets smaller. One of my college roommates patted me on the shoulder with a face full of relief. "Luckily, there's you, Xia. You've really done a public service. You've been the bridesmaid for all 7 of us in the dorm. When are you planning to marry yourself?" I sighed. "I'd love to. First, I need a man." Back in school, my mom would coax me by saying, "As long as you focus on studying, the country will assign you a boyfriend when you grow up." But even after I graduated with a master's degree, my mom suddenly asked me, "Why don't you find someone to date?" I looked at her blankly. "I was waiting for you to introduce someone to me. Didn't you say the country would assign one?" My mom gave me a look like I was an idiot and then turned to my dad with resignation. "We're doomed. We've raised her wrong. She's completely clueless." Her prediction came true. Even by the time I turned 30, I still hadn't found a suitable partner. Watching old friends and classmates pair off, I couldn't help but feel bitter. It's not that I desperately want to get married. It's just that, now in my prime, with such an appetite for life, sometimes I crave male companionship. After a few glasses of red wine, I boarded the train, still fairly sober. But a while later, the alcohol started to hit. I found myself fantasizing, imagining men so vividly they seemed real. Then I saw them, a group of young men in military uniforms, each tall with long legs, sharp features, and upright posture. Every one of them exuded vigor and discipline, especially the one in the second row on the left. Sword-like eyebrows, piercing eyes, a straight nose. His entire presence radiated masculinity so strongly that it stirred something primal in me. So many men, yet none of them were mine. I felt a wave of grievance. I stumbled to my feet, wobbling toward the leader, a middle-aged man who looked authoritative. Clinging to his arm, I sobbed, "Sir, when is the country going to assign me a boyfriend?" The man was stunned for a second before laughing. "Young lady, looking for a boyfriend. How old are you?" I spilled everything. My career, my education, my family lineage. The man's expression softened. Not bad. I might just have the perfect candidate." Chen Huai stepped forward. And then, I saw him. The man of my dreams, standing up and walking toward me. He snapped to attention and saluted. "Reporting, Political Commissar. Chen Huai, you're not getting any younger. You need to resolve your personal matters so you can fully focus on work." The commissar said earnestly, then pointed at me. "The organization has decided that you'll date her. Any objections?" Chen Huai narrowed his eyes, scanning me from head to toe. As he walked closer, I realized he was taller than I'd imagined. Standing in front of me, his shadow loomed, commanding and intense. The alcohol-induced haze began to clear, replaced by a twinge of regret. What had I done? He must think I'm a fool. The other soldiers remained seated but sneaked amused glances at us, their mouths twitching with suppressed laughter. I grew even more embarrassed, my toes curling in shame. Then came a deep, steady voice. "Reporting, Political Commissar. Permission granted." I was dumbfounded. That was it. That simple. Turns out, my mom wasn't lying. The country really could assign a boyfriend. The train car erupted in cheers and applause. The soldiers teased. What a day. Captain Chen's found himself a girlfriend. "Sir, when's it my turn to get a girlfriend?" "Pipe down, kid. You're only 20. What's the rush?" Amid the laughter, my face flushed crimson. I lowered my head shyly. And then I saw it. A beautifully slender hand reaching out to me. The nails were neatly trimmed, the fingers long and well-proportioned. It was the epitome of strength and elegance. "Hello, girlfriend. I'm Chen Huai." His voice was clear, magnetic. I was completely stunned. I stared up at him, dazed, before clumsily extending my hand to shake his. "Hi, I'm Xia. My hometown is a seaside city, and Chen Huai's unit trains here every summer for 4 months." We exchanged numbers and added each other on WeChat. When we got off the train, he climbed into a military truck with effortless grace, waving at me as he said, "I'm on leave next weekend. I'll come find you then." I stood there, watching the truck drive away, dust rising on the road, his face fading into the morning mist. As surreal as as a dream. Even after I got home, I was still in a daze. My mom noticed my distracted state and teased. Xiaoye just got married, and now you're the only one left in your dorm. Seeing others paired up, you're starting to lose it, huh? I shook my head. No, Mom. I have a boyfriend now. She sneered. Yeah, right. Where did you find one? The country assigned him to me. My mom rolled her eyes. It's not even dark yet, and you're already daydreaming. It did feel like a dream, but when I checked my phone, there it was. A new contact at the top of my WeChat list. Chen Huai. I opened his profile and browsed through his posts. Most were political news articles. Boring. I exited and put my phone away. Moments later, his profile updated. Excited, I clicked back in. The post read, "Taken, got myself a girlfriend." The accompanying photo showed me in a white dress, waving from afar. My face was blurry, not fully visible. It must have been taken from the truck earlier. My heart raced wildly, my face heating up as I grinned foolishly at my phone. Was he serious? So, earlier wasn't a dream. It wasn't a joke. My mom walked in with some fruit, seeing my love-struck expression, and snarked, "Look at you, drooling over some celebrity again." I ignored her, retreating to my room with my phone. Opening the chat with Chen Huai. I spent ages crafting a simple message. "Are you there?" I sent it. Silence. I kept checking every few minutes, but there was no reply. Days passed with no word from him. I went from hopeful anticipation to growing disappointment. Maybe it had all been a joke. That weekend, I went to a local food stall with friends. My bestie, Wang Fang, tugged on my sleeve. "Look over there. That guy's so handsome. Jia Qing, want me to get his number for you?" I glanced over. The guy, dressed in a simple white t-shirt and shorts, had a clean buzz cut and a familiar face. He was handsome, sure, but I shook my head. Forget it, not interested. Wang Fang wasn't having it. No way. "You're going to stay single forever at this rate. You've got to seize the moment." Being the extrovert she was, she marched over to the next table and started chatting away, occasionally pointing at me. I buried my face in my hands, too embarrassed to look their way. Then, I heard a familiar voice. "Ya Qing." I looked up, stunned. Standing in front of me was Chen Huai. He frowned. "You don't recognize me." "I didn't recognize you with clothes on," I blurted. The table burst into laughter. No, that's not what I meant. I mean, you're dressed differently now." The more I explained, the worse it got. My face burned as my friends teased us. Chen Huai raised an eyebrow. "So, you only recognize the uniform, not the person." Grabbing my arm, he led me toward the quiet, moonlit beach. "Looks like I need to make a deeper impression on you." The sea merged seamlessly with the grayish sky, its hue deeper and purer than the sky's gray. The waves unfurled slowly, almost lazily, rolling toward the shore until they soaked my feet without a sound. My heart thundered in my chest, chaotic rhythm of excitement and nerves. Chen Huai. My feet were drenched, and as his hand held mine, warmth radiated from his wide palm, so scorching that my thoughts scrambled incoherently. Chen Huai chuckled lightly, releasing my hand. "I called you all day today. Why didn't you answer?" "My phone died," I replied, smacking my forehead in frustration. When I left home, it was already low on battery. And then Wang Fang dragged me around shopping for hours, and I forgot to charge it. Chen Huai sighed in relief. "Good. I thought you were upset with me." "I wasn't ignoring your messages. It's just that we were out at sea for a week of training, and all our phones had to be handed in." A pang of guilt struck me. With his demanding job, this was our first date, and I'd let him down. "I'm sorry, Chen Huai. It's so late now." "It's not too late," Chen Huai interrupted me. His deep, husky voice tinged with a subtle brightness in his eyes. He leaned slightly forward, his breath brushing against my ear, stirring the loose strands of my hair. "It's not too late. There's still time to do the things I want to do." My face instantly flushed crimson. Panicked, I stepped back, only for my foot to twist awkwardly in the sand. Chen Huai's arm shot out, wrapping around my waist. The startling warmth from his body seeped through the thin fabric of his shirt, pressed so closely together. Our pounding heartbeats overlapped, leaving me unsure which belonged to whom. "I'm stationed here this week, guarding the tanks nearby. No need to head out to sea, and I get to keep my phone. Every message you send, I'll reply to." He tightened his hold on me for a moment, then let go and smoothly took my hand. "Let's go. It's getting late. I'll take you home." I froze for a second. "Wait, the things you wanted to do, that's it. Oh no, why did I blurt out my thoughts? Sure enough, Chen Huai raised an eyebrow in mild surprise. His long, narrow eyes gleaming with amusement. Girlfriend's not satisfied. Wants to take it a step further. No, that's not it. I shook off his hand and bolted ahead. Nearby, there was a row of garages storing amphibious tanks. Chen Huai's duty involved overseeing these tanks with his team. So while he could sneak out for a late-night snack, he couldn't stray too far. When he said he'd take me home, he simply escorted me back to my friends and watched me get into their car. As the car drove away, I kept waving at him, reluctantly looking back until he disappeared from view. You're killing me, Wang Feng teased, glancing at me as she drove. Things seemed intense back there, huh? Though, it did end a bit quickly. What nonsense are you spouting? We just talked. No way, it was just talking. Xia Qing, you're such a waste of opportunity. Wang Feng let out a dramatic screech, launching into a relentless stream of playful innuendos all the way home, covering my ears. I fled the car as soon as it stopped. Back in my room, I plugged in my phone, and sure enough, a string of messages from Chen Huai popped up. Grinning like an idiot, I scrolled through them one by one. Just as I reached the last message, my phone buzzed with a new one. Chen Huai, Xia Qing, are you home? Me? Yes, I just got home. Chen Huai, good. Get some rest. Good night. That's it. Not even an emoji. I felt a twinge of disappointment, but then my mind replayed our earlier hug. His broad shoulders. I hadn't paid attention at the time, but now I recalled the solid muscle beneath his shirt, radiating strength. Tonight wasn't a complete loss. After all, I hugged my pillow, rolling on my bed with a silly grin. But Chen Huai's definition of not busy clearly didn't match mine. My messages often went unanswered for hours. When he did reply, his words were sparse. Classic stoic, no-frills soldier. I was exasperated, and after one particularly long delay in responding, I lost patience and video called him directly. Surprisingly, he answered. The screen showed two unfamiliar young faces, probably 18 or 19 years old. Wow, a girl. Sister-in-law. Hello. Hi there. Is Chen Huai around? I waved awkwardly at them. They enthusiastically waved back, then turned the phone's camera. Moments later, the view settled on a massive armored vehicle, and there he was. Chen Huai, in camouflage pants and military boots, bare-chested as he cleaned the tank tracks. His tall, commanding figure exuded sheer power. I swear I was admiring the vehicle, but the bronze-toned muscles, broad back tapering into a narrow waist, it was impossible not to notice. You two slackers, this is how you clean it. Chen Huai's voice boomed as he approached, his 8-pack abs coming into clear view on the camera. He snatched the phone. What are you looking at? Feeling bold enough to peek at my phone now. The screen tilted again, and his slightly flushed face appeared, a hint of awkwardness in his expression. Xia Qing. I nodded shyly. Well, I sent you messages, and when you didn't reply, I decided to call. Even as I spoke, my eyes betrayed me, shamelessly scanning him through the screen. Like what you see? Yes. His clear, hearty laugh filled my ears, leaving me tongue-tied. I'll show you more next time. Before I could respond, he ended the call. I tossed my phone aside, buried my face in my hands, and let out a muffled scream. How could someone look that perfect? Fine. I forgive him for not replying sooner. Time passed during the 3-month fishing ban. One morning, my mom paced excitedly in the living room. Qing, let's visit Huazhu village. Your cousin married into that village, and today's the first day the boats return. We can join the feast. I shook my head. Ugh, I hate visiting relatives. Wait, Huazhu village. Wasn't that next to the spot where we had late-night snacks? Okay, I'll go. I jumped out of bed, frantically rummaging for a pretty dress. My mom teased. Anyone would think you're off to meet your lover. I blushed. Well, I was. Huazhu village followed the tradition of hosting grand feasts for relatives and friends on fishing days. My aunt greeted us warmly amidst the bustling preparations. Big sis, it was terrifying. There wasn't much wind, but the village shrine suddenly collapsed a few days ago. Everyone's saying it's ominous, and some fishermen even hesitated to go out today. Was anyone hurt? No. Thankfully, the military from the neighboring village helped clean up the debris. My eyes lit up instantly. The military, that had to be Chen Huai's team. I grabbed a bag of fruit. Auntie, Mom, I'll go thank the soldiers. Oh, how thoughtful of you, Ching ching. Take these drinks too, my aunt added, holding a large bag of supplies. I headed toward the shrine. From a distance, I spotted Chen Huai's figure, commanding and composed as he directed the cleanup. His chiseled side profile glowed under the sunlight, making him look almost otherworldly. Several girls had gathered nearby, clearly smitten. Captain Chen. I stepped forward, raising the drinks with a smile. Here, have something to drink. Chen Huai looked at me, pleasantly surprised. Xia Qing, one of the girls muttered. Xia Qing, don't waste your effort. Captain Chen won't accept it. They're strict with their discipline, you know. Even after the village sent so many things, they didn't take any of it. A delicate, sweet voice chimed in. I turned to see Lin Han, a girl from the same village. When I was younger, I used to visit my aunt often, and we'd play with the kids from the village, including Lin Han. But as we went to high school and university, our relationships naturally grew distant. Lin Han's father is the village chief, and her family has always been well off. She's beautiful, always carrying herself like a proud princess. She approached us, her gaze shyly lingering on Chen Huai. Captain Chen said he wouldn't take anything from the people. As soon as she finished, Chen Huai had already taken the drink from my hand, twisting the cap open with ease. Lin Han's eyes widened in disbelief, stamping her feet in frustration. Captain Chen, this is unfair. Why would you accept hers but not mine? Chen Huai stood across from me, his gaze firmly fixed on my face, a faint smile playing on his lips. She's not a civilian, she's my family. My face instantly turned red. I looked up at him, feeling my heart swell with pink bubbles. The sun's too strong here. Go wait for me under that tree. I nodded obediently and stepped aside. Watching Chen Huai as he worked, the ruins of the shrine were quickly cleared away. The village chief enthusiastically shook Chen Huai's hand, inviting him to stay for a meal. But Chen Huai politely declined. Xia Qing, I need to take the team back to the camp first. I'll have a day off the day after tomorrow, and I'll come find you then. Already leaving, we'd barely exchanged a few words. I couldn't help but feel reluctant as I looked at him. Before I realized it, I blurted out, I'll go with you. Chen Huai froze for a moment. I awkwardly added, Am I allowed to go? You can come, he said, his amber-colored eyes glinting under the sunlight, reminding me of a wolf prowling on the prairie. I climbed into the pickup truck with him, and the other soldiers immediately began teasing. Welcome, sister-in-law, to inspect our camp. Sister-in-law, remember me? I'm Fong Dong. We video called once. A dark-skinned boy grinned at me, only to be dragged away by the others. Have some tact. As the crowd climbed onto the truck bed, the spacious cab was left with only Chen Huai and me. I felt a bit uneasy. There's enough room in the back for 3 more people. It's too hot outside. Let some of them in. Sister-in-law, it's fine. I can hang on to the bottom of the truck, or the roof, or even run alongside it. More laughter erupted from the back, causing my face to flush. Quickly rolled up the window. When we arrived at the camp, Chen Huai showed me around. The camp wasn't large. It was mainly a display site for armored vehicles and tanks. The main base was still dozens of kilometers away. Standing in Chen Huai's room, I was stunned by its simplicity. A wooden bed in the corner, the walls damp and peeling from the coastal humidity. A desk stood by the head of the bed, and a single cabinet was neatly arranged as if measured with a ruler. This is where you live. I stood by the desk, looking at Chen Huai with a pang of pity. Chen Huai caught the look in my eyes and chuckled softly. This is already considered pretty good. This is good. Are there no better accommodations? Chen Huai walked up to me, placing his hands on the desk and caging me in his arms. There are. After marriage, you get a 2-bedroom apartment. Pressed against the desk, I looked up at him, his proximity overwhelming. The narrow space was filled with his warmth, a faint, sunlit detergent scent lingering around him. It was intoxicating and stifling. I watched his Adam's apple move up and down, his long, narrow eyes darkening. Want to improve my housing situation? His voice, low and magnetic, ended with a quiver that hooked onto my sanity, tearing it apart. My heart raced uncontrollably. Uncomfortable, I pushed at his chest, but Chen Huai grabbed my hand and pressed it against his chest. Leaning down, his nose almost touched mine. Yesterday, whose head was almost inside their screen, dying to see my abs. I felt like my face was about to explode from the heat. I wanted to cover his mouth. You're lying. I wasn't. Chen Huai chuckled, the vibrations of his laughter deep and melodious, rippling through the small room. Come on, leader. Inspect the goods. He guided my hand from his chest down to his flat, firm abdomen, letting me feel the well-defined muscles beneath my palm. I was completely paralyzed. How could anyone resist this? Before I knew it, I had hooked my arm around his neck, our lips colliding in an instant of mindless passion. In that moment, my mind went blank. It felt like Chen Huai had been holding back an erupting volcano, one that threatened to burn me to ashes. Just holding him, I could feel the tension and restrained hunger in his muscles, barely contained and ready to devour me whole. My legs gave out, breaking the moment as I stumbled. Chen Huai caught me, his breath warm against my neck. Sorry, Xia Qing. Did I scare you? No, it's fine. We stood there, holding each other quietly. I rested my head against his chin, taking in the simplicity of the room around us. Suddenly, an inexplicable urge washed over me. We'd only known each other for less than a month, and this was our third meeting. But marriage didn't seem so bad. If we got married, Chen Huai could live in a better place, right? No, stop it. Calm down, you hopeless romantic. A sudden ringtone shattered the moment. I fumbled to answer the call. Qing, what are you doing? I give you 10 minutes to get back here, or I'll break your legs. It was my mom, her voice furious. Confused, it took me a moment to realize I'd forgotten to let my aunt know where I went. They were probably still waiting for me to join them for dinner. You better get back here right now. Do you hear me? Her loud voice echoed through the phone. Embarrassed, I looked at Chen Huai. You came with your mom. That's my oversight. Let's go. I'll take you back, he said, adjusting my dress before holding my hand. When we returned to Huazhu village, my aunt's house was already bustling. 5 or 6 large round tables were set up in the yard, one occupied entirely by middle-aged women. My aunt was comforting my mom. It's good, really, big sis. Qing, being proactive is a good thing. Weren't you always worried she only cared about studying and wouldn't know how to find a partner? Good. Didn't you hear what Han said? She shamelessly chased after Captain Chen right after meeting him. Where's her dignity? Acting like a lovesick fool. It's so embarrassing. The others chimed in. You can't blame Qing. Have you seen Captain Chen? He's better looking than most celebrities. Exactly. And Lin Han has no right to talk. She practically throws herself at him every chance she gets. My mom sighed. Han's family has money, huge company. No one from our generation has better prospects than her. If Captain Chen isn't interested in her, what makes you think he'd look at Qing? She'll just embarrass herself, chasing after him like that and getting rejected at his camp. The more they talked, the more absurd it got. I wanted to dig a hole and hide. Mom! My mom turned, spotting me with Chen Huai beside me. She practically jumped 3 feet in the air. Captain Chen, please, have a seat, she stammered, trying to recover. My aunt awkwardly arranged a spot for him, while my mom's eyes lit up, only to glare at me right after. Captain Chen, I'm so sorry for troubling you. You even had to bring her back yourself. She fidgeted nervously, then added, our Qing isn't usually like this. She's actually very nice, a university counselor. Chen Huai nodded, then, in front of everyone, took my hand in his. She's wonderful. The room fell silent. Every pair of eyes widened in shock, staring at us in disbelief. Our hands intertwined. Mom, I forgot to introduce him just now, I said, looking at her. This is Chen Huai, my boyfriend. My mom's jaw dropped. Boyfriend? How long have you two been together? A year, I immediately replied, scratching his palm as a silent hint. If I had said a month, my mom would have interrogated me endlessly, and that would have been too exhausting. From then on, the scene had nothing to do with me. Chen Huai was pulled to sit down by my aunt, and soon, a swarm of relatives surrounded him, bombarding him with questions. Chen Huai was patient, answering every question with a warm smile. My parents are both in the military, he said. I'm a local. My mom inspected him from head to toe, her face practically splitting with a grin. On the way home, I was driving while she sat in the passenger seat, still occasionally laughing to herself. Mom, could you stop laughing? You're giving me goosebumps. Well, summer Qing. You sure know how to keep a secret. How did you manage to bag someone like him? She reached over and pinched my cheek, still laughing. I rolled my eyes. My mom always had a knack for undermining me while elevating others. Why not say it's his luck to have me? That's not what I meant, he said with a chuckle. Girls with good backgrounds are everywhere around here, and handsome boys like him are in high demand. She spent the entire ride explaining herself, and by the time we got home, I had barely let go of my annoyance. Together, we carried my dad, drunk as a skunk, and dropped him onto the couch. Wearing a strappy dress with my hair draped over my shoulders, I lifted it off my neck to cool off from the heat. My mom's sharp eyes immediately zeroed in. What are those red spots on your neck? The mosquitoes by the sea are vicious, I stammered, blushing furiously as I bolted to my room. Mom, I'm going to put on some ointment. Those mosquitoes were named Chen Huai. Later, my mom enthusiastically invited Chen Huai over for dinner. When I called to tell him, he readily agreed. My dad went out a day in advance to buy the best liquor, and my mom and I spent the whole morning shopping and preparing. When dinner time arrived, Chen Huai didn't show up. I went to my room to grab my phone, intending to call him, only to see a message from 3 hours ago. Yaqing, I have to go out to sea for training. No set return date. Wait for me. Clutching my phone, I felt an ache of disappointment. Ching, is Chen Huai here yet? Old Xia, go to the neighborhood gate to meet him. He's not coming. He's gone out to sea for training, I said flatly. Looking at the table full of dishes, I lost my appetite. My mom tried to console me. This is part of being with a soldier. You have to accept it. I had always known our relationship would involve long separations, but I hadn't expected it to be this hard. With no phones allowed on board, I counted stars and waited for the moon every day, marking off the days with my fingers. I sent dozens of messages to him daily, but that little red notification dot never appeared. His profile picture remained gray. Wang Fong dragged me out for a late-night snack, setting 2 beers in front of me. Look at you. Can't live without a man, can you? She didn't understand. If Chen Huai wasn't so good, I wouldn't miss him this much. But he's perfect, I sighed. Those abs. I barely touched them, and he vanished. It's killing me. Oh, isn't this Yaqing? At a nearby table, a group of young men and women sat drinking. Lin Han, holding a beer bottle, waved at me. Yaqing, you're impressive. You got Chen Huai to fall for you. Call him to join us for a snack. This meal's on me if he comes. Wang Fong explained. He's out at sea for training. Lin Han's face lit with smug glee. It's just a man. I'll introduce you to another one. I didn't want to engage, but Lin Han's enthusiasm was unstoppable. She had the waiter push our tables together, forming a long row for the 10 of us. Halfway through the meal, a few people left. Suddenly, Lin Han started crying. Why, Yaqing, what do you have that I don't? Why would Chen Huai choose you? Her heavy makeup smeared under her tears, making her look ghostly. I tried to comfort her, but she grabbed my hand. Let's go pick up seashells. We'll tell them all our troubles and throw them back into the sea. Then all our worries will be gone. What kind of romantic nonsense was this? It's late. I need to go home, I said, trying to pull away. But Lin Han had a tight grip. What kind of friend are you? Don't you remember when we were kids? You lost your mom's necklace, and I stole money from my house to help you replace it. I had no choice but to relent. She was right. She had been loyal to me when we were younger. Resigned, I followed her to the beach, with the others trailing behind us. By then, it was 1 a.m., and the quiet shoreline was empty except for us. Lin Han, lifting the hem of her dress, picked up a seashell and shouted, "Give me a man more handsome than Chen Huai." She hurled the shell into the water, and then we heard it. A sharp intake of breath. From the black water, a shadowy figure rose slowly. I couldn't see his face, but a wave of unease surged through me. Sorry, my friend didn't mean it. Lin Han, let's go. But the figure didn't move. Moments later, a second and third figure emerged, forming a semicircle as they advanced toward us. I screamed, grabbing Lin Han and turning to run. But it was too late. Someone yanked my hair from behind. Never in my life had I imagined living in peaceful times, that I would experience something so terrifying. Lin Han and I were kidnapped. The men were smugglers, not just illegal immigrants but drug traffickers as well. It felt like a scene from a movie, one where the male lead swoops in to rescue the heroine. But my hero was nowhere in sight. We were taken to a desolate island, so small that half of it would submerge at high tide. In the center stood a decrepit shack, likely abandoned by a fisherman. Inside were cigarette butts and empty cans scattered around. One of the kidnappers pointed a gun at us. "Who's Lin? Call your dad and tell him to prepare 5 million in cash." So Lin Han was their target. I laughed bitterly. Wrong place, wrong time. Lin Han's face went pale. Then, suddenly, she stood up, furious despite the gun pressed to her forehead. 5 million? Who do you think I am? That's an insult. The kidnappers exchanged looks. The leader squinted at her. How much, then? 80 million. Not a penny less. Lin Han lifted her chin, demanding her phone to call her father. The kidnappers were dumbfounded, retreating to whisper among themselves. Thanks to this spoiled princess, their attitude toward us softened. The leader even brought us 2 bottles of water. "Miss, do you know how heavy 80 million in cash is? 920 kilograms. 1,800 pounds. It could fill this entire room. Stop making excuses. If you dare reduce the amount when they come in, I'll double it." I couldn't understand how things had taken such a bizarre turn. Lin Han's outrageous demand had clearly thrown off their plans. The 3 kidnappers argued endlessly outside, and their leader grew visibly frustrated. Finally, on a moonless, windy night, after the others had fallen asleep, the young leader woke us up. "More people are coming tomorrow, and it'll get messy. You 2 need to leave tonight." Stunned, I stared at him. "Wait, are you an undercover cop?" He didn't answer, just motioned for us to follow. Carefully, Lin Han and I got up, tiptoeing out of the shack, trying not to make any noise. We nodded at the young man, who whispered, "I've contacted someone to pick you up, but the boat can't get too close. It'll make noise. You can swim, right? Swim a few hundred meters in that direction." Lin Han and I nodded, looking out at the dark, silent sea. Fear clutched my heart, but I mustered all my courage, taking Lin Han's hand as we stepped forward. But after just 2 steps, Lin Han let out a piercing scream. "Ah!" Something stabbed my foot. She panicked, pulling her hand away from mine and running back. Her voice sliced through the still night air, sharp and shrill. "It's too late now. You go first." The undercover agent pushed me, and a wave surged forward, dragging me into the sea. I didn't dare look back, paddling desperately forward, crying all the while. I felt so wronged. In my heart, I cursed Chen Huai 1,000 times over, even though I knew he wasn't to blame. But after watching too many dramas and reading too many novels, I couldn't help but yearn for my beloved, to appear as a gallant hero in my time of need. Yet here I was, alone in this pitch-black sea, where monsters seemed to lurk below, waiting to devour me. And Chen Huai, he knew nothing about this. Not only that, I couldn't even reach him. By the time he returned, my emotions would have already settled, my desire to confide in him long gone. In the future, how many more situations like this would we face? The icy seawater seeped into my bones, and for the first time, I was truly, painfully clear-headed. I began to wonder if I could truly handle a relationship like this, one filled with joy and sorrow, but also loneliness and isolation. In the darkest, scariest moments, I'd always have to face it alone. Suddenly, a huge splash rose in the distance. Something massive seemed to be approaching me in the darkness. Fear and panic surged within me, reaching a peak. I closed my eyes, sobbing. "Chen Huai, I want to break up with you." A speedboat sliced through the waves, stopping right in front of me with a roar. A hand reached out from the boat, grabbing my arm. "Xiaqing, what did you just say?" Startled, I opened my eyes to see Chen Huai, his face pale with anger. He pulled me out of the water in one swift motion, and I collapsed onto the speedboat, feeling the solid deck beneath me. The tension inside me snapped, and I hugged my knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Chen Huai sighed, crouching down to hug me. "Scared you, didn't it?" I nodded, wrapping my arms around his neck. I was terrified. Chen Huai gently patted my back, trying to comfort me, his voice steady as he talked, distracting me. As it turned out, He had returned the day before, only to receive a request from local police to assist in capturing smugglers. Your parents don't know about this yet. Wang Feng didn't dare tell them. Your dad's health isn't great, so stay out tonight and go home tomorrow after freshening up. Don't let them worry. His calm and composed tone, like giving orders to a subordinate, made me feel even more aggrieved. Once we reached the shore, Chen Huai found a hotel for me and handled the check-in. After taking a shower, I came out in a bathrobe, only to see Chen Huai sitting on the sofa, his jaw tightly set, his expression severe. "Miss Xia Qing," he said, "what did you mean by what you said earlier?" I sat on the edge of the bed, pressing my lips together, silent. What could I say? Looking at Chen Huai's face, who could even utter the words "break up"? "Xia Qing, being a soldier is an honor, but it's also a responsibility." Chen Huai stood up, walking over and crouching down in front of me. He took my hand, his expression unusually solemn and serious. "My parents are both soldiers, from the time I can remember. We never spent a new year together as a family. My dad always said, on days of reunion, our family sacrifices for the unity of thousands of others. That unity is my ideal, my belief. Being a military spouse isn't for everyone. There will be countless difficult times in the future when I won't be able to be by your side. I hope you'll think carefully about this relationship. When you've made up your mind, reach out to me." Chen Huai stood, walking toward the door. My mind was a mess. How could he do this? At a time like this, shouldn't he be comforting me, reassuring me? Instead, he was calmly reasoning with me. The frustration and hurt inside me erupted like a volcano. I couldn't hold back anymore. "Chen Huai, what do you mean? If I had insisted on breaking up just now, would you have agreed?" His steps faltered, and after a long pause, he murmured, "Yes." His hand gripped the doorknob tightly, the veins on the back of his hand faintly visible. "Xia Qing, I know how hard it is to be a military spouse. I understand all the grievances and feelings you just expressed. It pains me to see you suffer like this." Chen Huai exhaled deeply, then opened the door and strode out without looking back. I stood at the doorway, watching him leave, feeling as if a large part of my heart had been hollowed out. Was this the end? I couldn't wrap my head around it. Logically, Chen Huai was right. Staying with him would bring countless challenges and difficulties that I couldn't even begin to anticipate. But emotionally, I didn't want to break up with him at all, not even a little. He was so good, so maddeningly irresistible. If I missed out on him, I wasn't sure if I'd ever find a love this intoxicating again. I hesitated, wondering if I should chase after him. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from outside. I looked up to see Chen Huai standing awkwardly at the door. He pointed at the coffee table. I forgot something. On the table lay his officer's ID. I had no idea why he'd left it there. Chen Huai stepped inside, picked up the ID, and turned to leave. I remained rooted to the spot by the doorway. The hotel's entryway was narrow. As Chen Huai passed me, his sleeve brushed against my bathrobe. That familiar, pleasant scent of his, like sunshine, seemed to dispel all the gloom and darkness in my heart. On impulse, I reached out and grabbed his belt. Chen Huai froze, turning to look at me, his voice low and raspy. "Don't forget to lock the door later." I nodded, staring at him unblinkingly. Chen Huai, call me when you've made up your mind." "Me, Chen Huai, Xia Qing, let go." I nodded again, but my hand refused to release his belt. Chen Huai raised an eyebrow, the dim light from the overhead lamp casting a warm glow that deepened the shadows over his sharp features. His Adam's apple bobbed visibly, and the tension in the air grew thick and heavy, almost electric. Suddenly, Chen Huai smirked, a rare, devilish grin that added an unspoken allure to his usual stoic face. "You're not letting go." I laughed too, mirroring his expression. I stood on tiptoes, leaning closer to his face. "Chen Huai, you left your officer's ID on purpose, didn't you?" Before he could respond, I bit down gently on his jaw. Chen Huai immediately straightened, pinning me against the wall. His fiery kiss, scorching and consuming, overwhelmed me. "Xia Qing, I gave you a chance," he growled, his hand deftly undoing the tie of my bathrobe. "And then there's the part I'd love to write. but censorship won't allow 3,000 words of utter chaos. 3 days without opening the curtains. On the 4th day, realization dawned on me, and I looked at him with mock betrayal. Wait a minute, you're on leave. Where exactly did you say you were going? Chen Huai chuckled, pulling me into his arms to change the subject. I've got 7 days off this time. Tomorrow, I'm visiting your parents. My parents, oblivious to the kidnapping incident, welcomed Chen Huai with open arms. During lunch, my mom casually brought up Lin Han's kidnapping. They even used helicopters. It made headlines everywhere. Apparently, an undercover cop played a huge role. It was so dangerous. Thank goodness we don't have that kind of money to worry about. She turned to Chen Huai. So, Xiao Chen, you and Qingqing have been dating for over a year now, right? Both of you are about the right age. When should we arrange for our families to meet? Startled, I looked up to stop her, but Chen Huai reached under the table, gently squeezing my hand. Sure, Auntie, he said smoothly. I forced a laugh. There's no need, right? It feels a bit soon. Soon? What's soon about it? Do you plan on dating for 10 years? You're already 28, not 18. My mom launched into her usual lecture, leaving me no choice but to shut up. Chen Huai had me completely figured out. I've never been a particularly strong person, but the loneliness of being apart was always erased by the passion we shared when reunited. Even when I threw tantrums, I never dared to mention breaking up again. I knew how sensitive Chen Huai was about it, how deeply he felt guilty. If I said it, he might actually take it seriously. On my birthday, I lost contact with him again. 8 hours of silence. Returning to my apartment, I sat alone in the still living room, staring blankly at the cake. The sound of keys turning at the door startled me. I turned my head, and there he was, Chen Huai, standing in the doorway with a gift in his arms. I ran over, throwing myself into his embrace. You're here. Weren't you supposed to be away for training? Training ended. I took the high-speed train overnight to get back. He pinched my nose, grinning. Today is someone's birthday. If I didn't show up, she might throw a tantrum. I swatted his hand away. Me? A tantrum? I wouldn't dare fight the country for you. Chen Huai looked at me indulgently. Jia Qin, I belong to the country. And to you. He closed the door, setting the gift down on the table. Here's your first birthday present. There's a second one, I asked, eyes wide. Chen Huai nodded, slowly untying his army green tie and blindfolding himself. This is your second gift, he whispered, pulling me into his arms, his warm breath grazing my earlobe. Use me however you want. My face turned crimson. This man was too much. Both sets of parents met shortly afterward, and they were more than satisfied with each other. My mom began urging us to get married, but honestly, Chen Huai and I had met so few times. I could count them on 2 hands. It still felt too fast. Chen Huai, however, began dropping subtle hints. I only get 30 days off now. Once we're married, I'll get 2 months. Plus, there's a spouse honorarium, separation compensation, and even subsidized housing. Are you trying to improve my living conditions? I teased. Oh, just that, he said, smirking. Do you think I'm such a lovesick fool? Sitting on a small stool, I watched Chen Huai and his fellow soldiers jogging past. All of them wore camouflage pants, their bare torsos revealing perfectly sculpted abs. 1, 2, 3, 4. So many sets of 8-pack abs. Who was I? Where was I? Was this heaven? If I lived on base after we got married, would I get to see this magnificent sight every day? When they finished their run, I looked at Chen Huai seriously and nodded. About your earlier suggestion, I think I might consider it. Chen Huai raised an eyebrow, smirking. Like what you see? The abs? They're okay. Not as nice as yours. Chen Huai pressed his lips together, trying hard to suppress a grin. I've changed my mind. No rush. Take your time to think it over. I glared at him. No need to think. Let's do it. Go submit the paperwork. I'm telling you now, this is a one-time offer. Chen Huai chuckled, leaning down to kiss me softly on the lips. Yes, ma'am. The end.